Welcome to the Astro Psyche, where we explore depth psychology and astrology. This is your weekly astrology forecast for March 11th through the 17th. And this week is about healing possibilities with Venus in Pisces and the Sun in Neptune. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm really excited to share the astrology of this week with you from a psychological perspective. So let us begin with Venus moving into Pisces. So Venus moves into Pisces Monday this week on the 11th, and Venus will be there through April 4th. So little under, just a smidge under a month, Venus is in this sign of Pisces. And Venus is exalted in Pisces. We typically have a more easeful experience around relationships when we have Venus in Pisces. And of course, there's some nuances to that and some exceptions, of course, and some things to be mindful of as well, because any placement has its clear versus its more construed manifestation. But overall, Venus is a symbol of relationships, beauty, aesthetics, harmony, and healing, anything that we find soothing or healing in some kind of way. And when this is in Pisces, there is a lot of potential and a lot of possibility for smoothing things out, for finding healing, for finding even a sense of divine revelation or divine healing, or healing through maybe like alternative methods or something that is more energetic or alternative than the norm. So that's with us over the course of the next month while Venus is in Pisces. And this week we're kind of getting like a shot of that energy when Venus moves into Pisces on Monday, the 11th. Now, what I really like about this also is that Venus is in what's called mutual reception with Jupiter. And this is because Venus is in Jupiter's sign, the sign that Jupiter rules, which is Pisces. And Jupiter is in Taurus, which is the sign that Venus rules. So they have this connection to one another. There also happen to be an aspect. And this doesn't always happen. So this is an aspect that indicates that both Venus and Jupiter are able to share resources with each other, so to speak. They're connected and in a harmonious way. And this is really nice because these are benefic planets. Venus is benefic, Jupiter is benefic. Venus is about relationships and coming together and the healing that we can get through any manner of things, but especially relationships. And then Jupiter is about growth and expansion and inclusion and justice and anything that involves bringing more of the things that we need and that we want for our own personal growth and development, bringing more of that into our life. And so there's some support here as well with this particular transit. Again, this is happening this week, and then this is also present the whole time that Venus is in Pisces over the next month. Now, part of the challenge with this is that Venus is in Pisces with Saturn, which is the planet of boundaries, limitation, restrictions, as well as devotion, as well as Neptune, which is the planet of altered states of consciousness, spiritual communion, but also illusion or like not really seeing things very clearly, kind of feeling a little bit lost in unclarity. And so we'll talk more about Venus making a conjunction to Saturn and Neptune once it gets a little bit closer to those planets. But that's also important to keep in mind that this is, yes, this is Venus in Pisces, which is possibilities for healing, possibilities for deepening your healing spiritual practices, especially. And it's really important to honor both Saturn and Neptune over the course of the next month when we're talking about how we connect in relationships. And so with Saturn, that involves being practical and looking at the structure, the foundation, the foundational relationships that we have, the foundational commitments that we have. And then also, where is there freedom and flexibility for us to not know, which is the Neptune piece. So there's like a lot going on here with this Venus in Pisces. Other symbols with this particular transit, especially moving into it this week, is themes around connecting through empathy, increased capacity for compassion, and then also really working through unconscious patterns, especially in a way where maybe there is a potential for like not, how do I want to say this? Like, maybe you have a practice of cultivating more compassion or more understanding in your relationships, and maybe that is preventing you from seeing the reality of a situation. So that's, like, again, what your tendencies are. And so that's something that I would watch for here with Venus in Pisces, is if you already have a tendency to have rose-colored glasses with a situation, or to feel kind of like a challenge around having loving boundaries, then that's something to really pay attention to, especially this week with Venus's initial ingress into Pisces. Pisces is also a symbol of illusions or delusions. And I think this is important to name that when we're talking about Pisces and we're talking about intuition and reading into a situation, a lot of times we can get the feeling tone of a situation right. We're like tapping into it, but we're interpreting it in a way that's not entirely accurate. Or maybe, our subjective experience is like it's close to what the objective situation is, but we're a little bit off. And so I think that can happen a lot when we are talking about Pisces. And so I think that a big part of this week as well is questioning what it is that you're feeling. Like, okay, what is it that you're feeling? Focus on the feeling. And then what are the wide variety of possibilities that might mean? And the best thing that you can do is to get confirmation on what your intuition is, and that's going to help strengthen that for you. And if you're not able to do that, that just means holding space for your feeling and doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. Now, the other piece of this week, of course, is the Sun conjunct Neptune. But before we talk about that, another important piece that's happening just before that is we're having a first quarter moon in Gemini. This is happening on Saturday, the 16th. It's exact at 9:10 p.m. Pacific time, so late in the day. First quarter moons are a time of getting feedback on whatever it is that we started at the new moon, of redoubling our efforts and really moving into creation, into more extroverted types of activities, and really taking practical action on things. Of course, that depends on where you're at in your practical world, but that's kind of the emotional energy of this. So this is within the context of the new moon in Pisces that we just had on Sunday, the 10th of March. So we're within that Pisces lunar cycle. And a first quarter moon in Gemini in particular is really about asking questions. Gemini is about asking questions, looking for answers, and seeking out multiple sources or multiple methods of figuring out what it is that you need answers for. Also just talking to people, journaling, questioning. Like Gemini is all about questions and having a sense of curiosity with things, that there's Gemini reminds us that there is no one way, that there is a multitude of ways towards anything that we're trying usually. So that happens on Saturday. And then we have the Sun making a conjunction to Neptune in Pisces. Conjunction means that the Sun and Neptune are together at the same degree in the zodiac. And this is happening on Sunday, the 17th. So the Sun is a symbol of our consciousness, conscious awareness, the light of our awareness. We can see, it is clear. The Sun is also a symbol for vitality and our will, the ego, that part of our psyche that that we orient around, that is a sense of our identity, our will, our volition. And when the Sun comes together with Neptune in any aspect, really, but especially a conjunction, there is this softening of the Sun's symbols, because Neptune is kind of like the ocean washing up on the shore and sort of like softening anything, any sand structures that we've built. So there's kind of this like softening and smoothing out. And what that is, a hummingbird outside. Um, it's really sweet. Uh, so, so what this may look like in practical terms is there's usually a sense of having an ability to be more intuitive or empathic or compassionate, having an ability to connect to something greater than yourself, whether that is the divine or your spiritual guidance team or your ancestors, or simply a sense of deep presence within yourself. Also doesn't have to be incredibly deep and profound. It could also be a sense of ease and peace. Now, also, Sun-Neptune in aspect tend to sensitize our nervous system. And for someone who already has a sensitive nervous system, that can have kind of the opposite effect. It can exacerbate things. It can make us feel dysregulated if we're in an environment that that we find dysregulating, that is too much, too fast in some way, whether that's sensory or we're just really busy. And so we're feeling this aspect of Sun Neptune all week. It's exact on Sunday, so that's kind of like the apex. And this energy, this sensitizing of the nervous system is present with us all week. So I think that it's really important to look at how we can notice when we become dysregulated, which basically we usually experience that as anxiety or overwhelm. That's kind of the more practical term for it. When we feel anxious, overworked, frazzled, burnt out in some way, how can we do the things that we need to do to find some space, to find calm and quiet in whatever way that is for you, or to do, doesn't always have to be like stillness things. It can be moving your body physically in a rhythmic way, like walking or jumping or dancing or things like this. Those also help to regulate us. So I would be really caring with yourself this week, especially if you're a person that already tends to kind of feel like overstimulated by things. And I think, and also, you know, if you're able to take care of yourself, the Sun Neptune can actually be a really great time to move into any type of connection with self through practices like meditation, mindfulness, psychotherapy, of course, let's see, what other things did I want to mention here? Yeah, so like kind of I was thinking about like remediations for this week. So things like um play, creativity, listening to really good music that you like, dancing, holding and questioning your assessment of a situation, holding things softly, ritual, meditation, mindfulness, spiritual practices, even I think too, visiting sacred spaces. That could be a place that is known to be sacred in your area, or a place that you feel a sense of sacredness. We can also connect with the elements of nature. These are all remediations for the energy of Sun-Neptune that sort of give a place for Sun-Neptune to exist in our lives. And I think also this week too, there is this theme around, or there could be this theme around indecision, because we do have a lot of mutable presence with the sun being in Pisces, Venus being in Pisces, the first quarter moon in Gemini. Those are very mutable themes. And so there's often this theme with mutable of multiple possibilities, moving from one thing to another. And it's really asking us to cultivate a flexible way of being, and asking how you can stay aligned even when things are in flux. How can you have that kind of flexible, like when you're trying to balance, there's these micro movements to stay in one place versus a rigid, unmoving sort of presence. So those are my thoughts. I think, oh yeah, also other things to ask yourself as far as, you know, your nervous system and regulation is, what do you find regulates you versus dysregulates you, even at a subtle level? When do you notice yourself feeling anxious? And how do you attune to others? How do you attune to yourself? What puts you in a state of flow where you just feel like you're in the flow of things? And how do you take care of yourself day to day? Okay, so I'm going to pull some tarot cards. This deck is the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Kranz. And so now is a great opportunity to connect with yourself, to either find a place of stillness if you can, or a place of movement if that feels more connecting for you. You can bring your focus into your physical body, the temperature of the air, the sensation of your breath. You can rub your hands together. And if there's a particular scenario or situation that is on your heart, I want you to hold that in your heart very gently. Hmm. Okay, so the first card is the Eight of Pentacles. And in this card, there is a spider web with a spider in the middle. And there's 8 pentacles sort of bordering the edge of the card. So this card is about productivity, doing the things that you need to do to build whatever it is that you're building. This is very emphasizes work, process, study. Usually feels very Saturnian to me. This card is about doing the things, the labor. I think it's like, we could say it's like Saturn / sixth house even. It's like doing the things that you need to do that are kind of like little stepping stones. And when you do all of those things, they add up to a lot, but each little individual thing is really important and putting in the effort. So I don't know, maybe is that something that's on your mind? What's happening there? Is that something that is challenging right now? Is that something, I don't feel like maybe there's resistance, but I pulled this upright. So I don't feel like this is resistance. I feel like this is speaking to the topic. And also when I pull this card, it's usually encouragement to do those practical things that you need to do every day to move towards what it is that you're creating in your life. This is a card of strategic action too. I think this is like about focusing your efforts. Like, what are you doing? And what you're doing today leads to the life that you have next week, next month, next year. Okay, so we may go back to that in a moment. The second card is Temperance. And the card Temperance in this deck is really beautiful. It's this, gosh, I don't know what kind of bird this is. Maybe you know. It's this crane looking type bird that's standing, and it's kind of like, it has its wings open, but they're sort of like circling around this flame. And there's water droplets that look like they're falling from the bird into the flames. And the coloring in the background of the card, it's blues at the bottom and then more like yellows and oranges at the top. So Temperance, like the name, of course, is a card of tempering. It's a card that typically indicates moving towards balance, being in this and that. This card really feels like the mutable energy to me, where it's not about doing it all this way or all that way. It's like, no, having your feet, 1 foot in each world. Even in the original Smith-Waite deck, the figure in the card has 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the land. And so there is this theme around, especially Temperance is about healing that comes through equanimity and balance, and a very gentle walking the path with 1 foot in each world. And I'm also feeling like there's this sense of like walking a threshold too. Like, so there could be some sort of initiation that's happening, or maybe a part of the work that you're doing in itself is an initiatory process. And the last card is the Devil card. So in this particular deck, it's the figure looks like a mountain goat with these large horns, and it has a little pentacle on its forehead, and there's actually like fire almost emanating out of the hooves of the goat. And so, yes, the Devil card I find can certainly elicit some fear, because we tend to see it as a negative, there's lots of negative connotations with it. The Devil card is usually an indicator that there is something around being bound or attached to the material world in some way, or to, it doesn't even have to be the material world. It's like there's an attachment to something that is not healthy for you, that is not life-giving for you. And sometimes this can be big things, sometimes it can be small things. Sometimes it can be like, attachment to spending money or having things. It can be an attachment to a certain relationship or relationship dynamic. It can be an attachment to a job for the sake of status. It can also be a sense of attachment to a way of being that is that has served you at one point in time, but it is now outdated. So I think it doesn't always have to be a big bad thing, and it is an indicator that there is something that we're hanging on to, that we're grasping onto, that if we were to soften the grasp on that, that would improve our lives in some way. And so as I'm looking at all of this, the theme here initially is about work and your progress in the work that you're doing or the life that you're building for yourself, whatever that is. Could even be something that you're studying, maybe. But wherever you're putting your energy and effort, this is the main topic here. And this is something that you're doing slowly over time. It's really important to have a sense of temperance with this, to walk a balanced path, to have equanimity, to, I think, like these two together, it's like encouraging to not be in a rush, to look at balancing yourself, balancing the balancing the elements, and that this, like doing these things, releases some of the knots that you have where there's like some tension or some holding psychologically onto something, that is part of the journey, and that there is a releasing here. And maybe you already know when I'm talking about it, maybe there's something that comes up for you here around something that you're hanging on to. We all do this, and we don't do it on purpose. Sometimes we are attached to something because it's a psychologically protective measure that we've done unconsciously, and it was important for us at one time. And, now there's something here, the life that you're building, there's a healing here and a releasing here that is happening this week. All right. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that this was helpful. As always, I love to hear from you. Again, my name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and astrologer, and I offer psychodynamically oriented or depth psychotherapy and astrology sessions. If you want to find out more about me and my work, you can find that on my website, theastropsyche.com. Such a pleasure to share the astrology with you this week. I hope you have a wonderful week. Wishing you lots of ease and sending lots of love. I'll see you next week. Bye.